It started with the vibration of my phone on the nightstand. I almost ignored it. Midnight wasn't the time for anyone to be reaching out, at least not to me. But when I turned the screen over, her name was there. Clara. She was the neighbor I'd spoken to in passing for months, the woman across the hall whose laughter carried through the walls on weekends, whose voice lowered when she spoke into her phone late at night. She was in her mid-40s, at least twice as composed as I ever felt, and yet she just sent me 5 words that pushed sleep far from my body. "Are you awake?" My thumb hovered over the keyboard longer than I want to admit. I typed, deleted, then finally sent back. "Yeah." Seconds stretched into minutes. Then another buzz. "Can you come over?" I sat up in bed, heart knocking against my ribs. The apartment was too quiet, the kind of silence that made every sound sharper. The hum of the fridge, the distant rush of traffic, even my own shallow breathing. I slipped into a hoodie, not sure what I was walking into, and stepped into the hallway. Her door was already open a crack. A line of warm yellow light cut across the floor. I pushed gently, and there she was, barefoot, wrapped in a soft robe, her hair loose and darker in the shadows. She gave a half smile, but her eyes carried something else, something I couldn't place yet. "Sorry," she said softly. "I just couldn't sleep." I nodded, not trusting my voice. She gestured for me to come in. Her living room smelled faintly of wine and lavender, the kind of scent that lingers when the night has been longer than planned. A single lamp lit the space, casting soft shadows on the walls. "Want something to drink?" she asked, already moving toward the kitchen. Her movements were steady but deliberate, as though she was buying herself time. "Water's fine," I managed. When she returned, she handed me the glass and sat on the couch, curling her legs beneath her. I sat at the other end, too careful, the cushion between us a reminder of what I wasn't sure I was allowed to want. We talked at first about nothing. Neighbors, the noise in the building, the endless repairs management never fixed. But her laughter came quicker than usual, and every time her eyes met mine, she didn't look away. I noticed the way her fingers played absently with the tie of her robe, the way her knee bounced softly beneath the fabric. "Do you ever feel like you don't belong where you are?" she asked suddenly. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through everything. I swallowed. "All the time." She nodded, as if that was enough, and then silence filled the room again. But it wasn't awkward. It was heavy waiting. I wanted to ask why she texted me. Why tonight of all nights? But the words wouldn't form. Her gaze dropped to my hands wrapped around the glass, and when she spoke again, it was almost a whisper. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who doesn't expect anything of you. I didn't know what to say to that. The air felt thinner. The lamp flickered slightly, or maybe it was just my vision blurring with nerves. She leaned back against the couch, her shoulder brushing the cushion closer to me. Before I could stop myself, I asked, "Do you want me to stay?" Her lips parted, the faintest trace of hesitation on her face. Then, the sudden buzz of her phone lit up the table between us. Both our eyes snapped to the screen. A name appeared I didn't recognize, the message unread. The glow lingered in the quiet, and she didn't move to pick it up. Instead, she turned to me, her expression unreadable, her voice steady but low. "Tell me why you really came." Her question sat between us, heavier than a glass of water, still sweating in my hand. Why did I really come? I could have said the easy thing, that I couldn't sleep, that I was just being neighborly. But she was looking at me like she already knew those answers would be lies. "I don't know," I muttered, setting the glass on the table. "I guess I just didn't want to say no." Something flickered across her face, not quite a smile, not quite sadness. She pulled the robe tighter around her, even though the apartment wasn't cold. "You remind me of someone I used to know," she said finally. "Someone who listened without trying to fix me." I didn't press. I just nodded, though inside my head was spinning. I knew she'd been married once. Her ring finger still carried the faint indentation, a pale band of skin that told a story without words. Some neighbors whispered her husband had left. Others said she was the one who walked out. Either way, she carried it like an invisible weight, tucked behind her easy smile. And me? I wasn't supposed to be here. I was too young, too raw. 22, and still figuring out how to keep the fridge stocked, still fumbling through the kind of relationships that ended in unread messages and excuses. She knew that. We both did. The difference between us wasn't just years, it was everything. I've made mistakes, she said suddenly, almost like she wanted to beat me to the silence. Ones that don't go away just because you move apartments. Her fingers twisted the robe's tie until her knuckles paled. I wanted to reach out to stop her hands from punishing themselves, but I didn't. I wasn't sure I had the right. You're not the only one, I answered, softer than I meant. My chest tightened at the thought of past nights I couldn't erase. The way I'd let people down, the people I promised to love but didn't. But maybe mistakes don't have to define everything. She looked at me, then, really looked, and something unspoken passed between us. A recognition, a shared shame. The clock on her wall ticked too loudly. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed, reminding me we weren't as hidden as it felt. I shifted closer, just slightly, my knee brushing hers before I could second-guess it. She froze, but didn't pull away. I shouldn't have texted you, she whispered, though her body leaned the opposite of her words. And yet you did, I said quietly. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came. Instead, she exhaled, slow and uneven. Then, almost without thinking, she reached across the cushion and laid her hand over mine. It wasn't bold. It wasn't dramatic. Just her warm palm pressing lightly against my knuckles, her thumb brushing once as if testing how far she could go. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just let it happen, the weight of it louder than any confession. And in that moment, with the clock ticking, the world outside still moving, I knew neither of us would be able to pretend this was nothing. Her hand lingered on mine, just long enough for my breath to falter. The moment stretched thin, one shift closer, and it could have broken into something we couldn't undo. But then the sharp sound of a phone vibrating cut through the air. She pulled back quickly, fingers curling into her lap, as though the touch had burned. The phone lit up again on the table, the same name I'd seen earlier. This time, she snatched it before I could read more. Her face gave her away, though. Tension, fear, the quick dart of her eyes toward me. Work stuff, she muttered. Too fast, too flat. I didn't push, but my stomach nodded anyway. She rose from the couch, pacing toward the window. This is a mistake, she whispered, half to herself. You're too young. She cut herself off, shaking her head, arms wrapping tight around her body. I stood, unable to stay still. If it's such a mistake, why did you call me here? Her silence answered more than words could. She turned, lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but then a knock rattled the door. Hard. She froze, eyes wide. I felt my throat go dry. Whoever it was late, and it wasn't normal. Clara? You awake? A man's voice, muffled but clear enough. Her gaze snapped to me, panicked. She pressed a finger to her lips, gesturing toward the hallway. My pulse hammered as I slipped out of sight, flattening myself against the wall just beyond the living room. She opened the door only halfway. Yes, sorry, what is it? The man's voice lowered, but I could still make out the words. Car lights were on. Thought maybe it was yours. Just checking. Her laugh was forced, brittle. Not mine, but thanks. All right. Good night. The door clicked shut. For a moment, I stayed frozen, listening to her slow, shaky exhale. When I stepped back into the room, her face was pale. She rubbed her temples like she could erase the moment entirely. You need to go, she said, voice thin. I don't want to. Her eyes snapped up, sharp, almost angry. You don't understand. If people start talking, I took a step closer, then let them talk. She shook her head violently. No, I already ruined one life by not thinking things through. I can't, her voice cracked. I can't do it again. I wanted to tell her she wasn't ruining mine, that this, whatever this was, felt more alive than anything I had known before. But the words stuck. Instead, I reached out instinctively, catching her wrist when she turned away. The contact stilled her. Her eyes met mine wide, vulnerable. For a second, the distance collapsed. The way her breath brushed against my face, the way my grip tightened instead of letting go. We were one heartbeat from crossing the line completely. And then her phone lit up again. Same name, same silent wait. She pulled her wrist free, staring down at the glowing screen. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "It's not over." The glow of her phone still lit her face when I blurted it out. "Who keeps calling you?" The words came sharper than I meant, slicing through the quiet. She looked up, startled, then defensive, clutching the phone to her chest. "It doesn't matter," she said quickly. "It's nothing you need to worry about." "That's not true," I snapped, taking a step closer. My voice cracked with something I hadn't planned to reveal. "Because I do worry, more than I should." Her lips pressed into a line, but her silence said enough. She set the phone down deliberately, like it was poison. "You think this is simple?" she whispered. "You think we can just sit here in the dark, pretending the years between us don't exist? Pretending I don't have history or obligations or regrets that will crush both of us if we keep going?" Her chest rose and fell too fast. My hands clenched at my sides. "I don't care about the years. I don't care about your past. The only thing I can't stand is you pulling me close and then pushing me away like I'm some mistake you regret the second it happens." She flinched. I saw it, even though she tried to hide it. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing. "I've been in your doorway more nights than I'll admit, just stopping myself from knocking. I don't know why I can't stay away, but I can't. And if that makes me reckless, fine. But don't stand there and tell me you don't feel the same." The room went unbearably still. Her eyes glistened, though no tears fell. She took a step toward me, then stopped, fists tightening at her sides. "You're too young to know what you're giving up," she whispered. "And I'm too old to pretend it won't hurt you." "Then hurt me," I said before I could stop myself. Her breath caught, audible, sharp, like the words had struck her chest. She closed the distance in 2 steps, so close that I could feel the heat of her body, the faint scent of lavender clinging to her robe. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said, her voice trembling, almost breaking. "Then show me," I whispered back. Her hand lifted, hovering near my jaw, fingers trembling. She didn't touch, but the intention hung in the air, dangerous and undeniable. Our foreheads nearly touched. Every muscle in my body screamed to close the gap, to end the silence with something real. But just as her fingertips brushed my skin, a sharp knock at her door jolted us apart. We froze, breathless, staring at each other. The knock came again, harder this time. The knocking didn't stop. It came faster, heavier, like whoever stood outside already knew the answer they wanted. She looked at me, wide-eyed, frozen in a kind of panic I had never seen in her before. My pulse hammered in my ears. Then her voice, low and almost breaking, "Don't move." She slipped past me, straightening her robe, pressing her hands hard against her hair to look composed. When she opened the door, the last person I expected stood there. It wasn't her husband. It wasn't a neighbor. It was my roommate. He stood with his phone still in his hand, the screen glowing, his face set with confusion and something close to fury. "Why are you here?" His voice cracked like he'd already rehearsed the accusation. My chest tightened. Words failed me. She tried to fill the silence. He was just helping me with something. Helping you." My roommate barked out a bitter laugh. His eyes flicked from her face to mine. "At midnight? Dressed like that?" I wanted to defend her, to push back, but the weight of his glare pinned me in place. And deep down, I knew there was no excuse that wouldn't sound like a lie. "You said you were going for a walk," he snapped at me. "That's what you told me an hour ago. And now I find you here? With her." Her hands trembled on the edge of the doorframe. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence was answer enough. My roommate's voice dropped, heavy with something worse than anger, disappointment. I trusted you. His jaw tightened. And you, he turned back to her, I never thought you'd. You're old enough to know better. The words cut sharper than he realized. She stiffened, like he'd slapped her. For the first time, I stepped forward. Stop. My voice came out louder than I intended, but I didn't back down. You don't get to talk to her like that. He looked at me like I just crossed the last line. So it's true then. Whatever this is, you're actually doing it. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. Because what could I say? Deny it, when my pulse still carried the echo of her almost touch. Admit it, and risk shattering everything? Her eyes flicked to mine in that moment, silently begging me not to answer. And I realized the twist wasn't just that we'd been caught. It was that we weren't on the same page. I was ready to burn for her. She still wanted to hide. My roommate let the silence stretch, his expression hardening. Finally, he shook his head and stepped back from the door. You'll regret this, he muttered, and walked away into the night. The door closed with a trembling click. She leaned against it, her breath uneven, eyes wet but fierce. And when she finally looked at me, all she said was, "You should go." Her words hit harder than the knock on the door had. You should go. But I didn't move. My hand tightened on the back of her chair, my breath jagged in my chest. For a moment, the room was too quiet, the kind of quiet where every second feels like a choice. I can't, I whispered finally. Her eyes snapped up to mine, red-rimmed and shining. Don't do this. Don't make it harder than it already is. The robe she had pulled tight around herself was slipping at the collar, her hand clutching it closed like it was armor. She looked both strong and broken at once. I wanted to step forward to take that weight from her, but my feet felt cemented. You think I care what he saw? What anyone thinks? My voice cracked, the words tumbling out faster now. I came here tonight because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Every night, I lie awake, waiting for my phone to light up with your name. And when it doesn't, I stopped, pressing a hand over my mouth. I feel empty. She turned away, pacing toward the window, where the curtains still swayed from when she had peeked out at the world outside. You don't understand. I've already lived a whole life of mistakes. A marriage that's nothing more than silence. A daughter who would never forgive me if she knew. And you still have a whole life ahead of you. Her words should have pushed me back, should have built the wall she clearly wanted. But instead, they pulled me closer. I stepped forward. Maybe that's why I need you. Because with you, it feels like I'm finally living. Not waiting. Not pretending. Her shoulders shook, the faintest sound escaping her lips. She turned, tears tracing the lines of her face. And in that moment, I saw everything she had been holding back. Fear, guilt, longing. She whispered, "Say it plain before I break. I love you." The words came out raw, stripped of any defense. Not the idea of you, not just the nights like this. You. The silence that followed was unbearable. Her hand lifted, trembling, as if reaching for me, but stopped midair, caught in the war between desire and fear. Then, slowly, she closed the space between us, pressing her palm against my chest. I could feel the weight of her hesitation, but also the truth she couldn't say aloud. You'll regret this, she breathed, echoing my roommate's words from earlier, but her tone carried none of the venom. Only sorrow, only love. Maybe, I whispered, covering her hand with mine. But not tonight. We stood there, closer than we'd ever been, the decision already made in our bodies, even if our words hadn't caught up. The room felt suspended, the future uncertain, but the present, this impossible, messy present, was ours. And just as her lips parted, as if she might close the last inch between us, the sound of a car pulling into her driveway broke through the night. Her hand froze against me. Our eyes locked. Everything was about to change again. The headlights cutting across her living room wall felt like a spotlight, dragging every secret we'd hidden into the open. She pulled her hand back from my chest, wrapping her robe tighter, but her eyes stayed on me. Neither of us moved, the sound of the car door slamming outside pressing down on us like a warning. "I can't," she whispered, though her voice trembled with more than just fear. I nodded, though every part of me screamed to stay. "I know, but I didn't leave. Not right away." The front door opened. Heavy steps moved through the hallway, stopping just shy of the living room. Her husband's voice carried in, low and tired, asking about the lights. She answered quickly, calm and practiced, as though her heart wasn't breaking right there in front of me. When the sound of his retreat faded, she finally looked at me again. Her expression was torn, half apology, half something softer, something she didn't dare name. I swallowed hard, forcing the words out. "I'll go, but you need to know, I meant what I said." Her lips pressed together, fighting back whatever answer she wanted to give. Instead, she reached for me in one small, desperate gesture, her fingers grazing my wrist. It was quick, almost invisible, but it burned deeper than any kiss could have. I stepped back toward the door, and for a moment, it felt like that was the end. But then she spoke, just above a whisper, "Tomorrow." I froze. "Tomorrow." She nodded once. "If you still feel the same, you'll come back." "If I still feel the same, I'll let you in." The air shifted between us, fragile but alive. No promises, no guarantees, just the possibility of something real, messy, and worth risking for. I left that night with my heart pounding, not from fear, but from the fragile hope she had placed in my hands. And somehow, I knew I would knock on her door tomorrow. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Backhand index pointing right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next story. Your support keeps these stories alive.